Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to Synthetic Oil Protection. My name's Eben. I'll be your host. So on Synthetic Oil Protection, we show how to exponentially protect your vehicle's engines, transmissions, and differentials 2 to 4 times better than using OEM fluids. If you guys are new to the channel, definitely consider subscribing. You just hit the little subscribe button right here, and then you go ahead and tap the notification bell. Alright, so today we're here talking about preventative maintenance on vehicles, engines, transmissions, and differentials. And we have a very, very special person with us today, Brittany. And she's definitely new with car maintenance and stuff like that. She's not too familiar, which is a good thing. So she'll have some questions and stuff like that. So we're just going to kind of mess around a little. What is this car?
It's a Fiat Pop.
All right, it's a Fiat Pop.
I don't know what year it is.
All right, Fiat. All right, that's good. That's good. So so it's good that she doesn't know much about cars. So we're going to be talking about different fluids and stuff like that. So you had a couple of questions on things with it. So
yeah.
She just got an oil change.
Yeah, and it my light's still on and it sounds funny.
All right, so her light's still on. It sounds funny. So I'm going to guess. If it sounds funny, it could be gunked up. The oil could be a little bit thicker. It may be low on oil. I don't know. So we'll definitely check it out, and we'll take a look at that. What other things did you have? Any questions on your car?
I don't even know where to start. I don't know anything about it.
All right.
My trunk is broken, so that's
all right.
Thing
So
I don't know.
So her trunk is broken. So we'll show that. We'll show, it's probably just a piece of plastic. That's something very easy that can be fixed. So today we're also going to talk about the preventative maintenance thing on when to change fluids. So So from what you're aware of, when would you usually change your motor oil? We'll start with motor oil.
I don't know the difference between motor oil and what other fluids there are in the car. So that would be my first thing. But I usually just change when the light comes on.
All right, I like that. All right.
And now the light's just on. So.
All right, so she knows that. So she knows when the light's on. Basically, you change your motor oil, OEM, all right?
Yeah.
And that's basically it. And that's what a lot of people are aware of. With AMSOIL, there's some differences to it. It's 100% synthetic, and it's also good for 1 year and up to 25,000 miles on an oil change. And that's what one of the benefits are of this lubricant. So she wouldn't have to change it 3 times a year, because most people, they usually go 5,000 miles on an oil change, and they wouldn't have to do all these trips to the dealer, the time, the gas, stuff like that.
What makes the light turn on? With that?
And that's a great question, yeah. So what makes the light turn on? Usually there's a computer in the car, and that computer counts the revolutions of the engine, and what it does is after X revolutions, it actually turns that light on. So if you drive a lot of highway or city, that really doesn't come into play. It's actually measuring the revolutions of the engine, the RPMs, and actually the hardest thing on the oil is idling. When you just sit there and idle, it's very hard on the motor oil.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any fuel injection cleaners you've ever used on this?
I don't know anything, no.
All right.
Definitely not me.
All right, so she's got a fuel injection cleaner in her hand, and this is, it's PI Performance Improver. And it's a proprietary fuel additive that actually cleans the ethanol varnish out of the fuel system.
Oh.
It cleans the valves, so the valves in the engine can get buildup on them, and they don't seal properly, and you lose compression and you get blow by. And when that happens, you're losing a lot of gas mileage. Also, that helps with your fuel filter. And they also make a diesel version of this if you have a diesel vehicle. So the big components of taking care of your car is the motor oil for the engine. One of the second biggest is the fuel injection cleaner, which you put in every 4,000 miles. And then I'm going to show you guys the oil filter.
Wow, where do you put this?
So yeah, this right here, this goes in the gas, and that goes in the fuel tank every 4,000 miles.
In the gas
tank, in the gas tank.
There?
Yep, in the regular gas tank.
So you just pour that in?
Yep.
With gas in it?
Yep, you fill the gas tank up with a full tank of gas, and then you put that in.
Oh, that's crazy easy. I could do that.
Yep, anybody can do it. Yep.
And it helps.
Yep, it gets you much better gas mileage, up to 5.7% better fuel mileage, just one bottle. And it's good for direct injection, standard port fuel injection, and carbureted engines. So any gasoline engine, you can put that in.
Wow, so it's like a wheatgrass shot for my car or something?
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's look at the engine.
Yeah.
Do you clean your engine?
Yeah, so that's another great question. So she asked, do you clean your engine? And you can. What you can do is you can actually degrease the engine. And what that'll do is that'll actually allow the air to go over the engine better. And a clean engine breathes better, so it runs cooler, because this acts like an insulation, the dust on it, and you want to get that dust off the engine.
Oh, cool.
Yep, so that's always something good. And I wanted to show you guys the oil filter. This is a filter that's good for 1 year, 25,000 miles. And you can see a little bit of the difference of the filtration percentage compared to many other oil filters. It's quite a bit of an upgrade. And so a lot of people ask me, they say, even, you know, how is it that much better? Well, it's the good oil mixed with the filter is what allows you to do the 1 year, 25,000 miles.
So how often do you have to change the filter?
So the filter, good question. This filter is good for 1 year or 25,000 miles.
Okay.
If you have an OEM filter, most OEM filters are good for about 5,000 miles, and some of the newer cars are now good for 10,000. So there's nothing wrong with using an original equipment filter, but this is just an upgrade that will protect your car better, and it helps with the cold starts because the anti-drain back valve inside here, it's a higher quality silicone.
Oh.
And when you turn your car off, the oil can actually drain back out of the filter. And when you go to cold start your car the next day, if there's no oil that stays in your filter, it actually has to suck it through. And temporarily, for about a half a second, you're running the car without any oil. And that can wear the pistons and cams and stuff like that. So the silicone's a little bit better quality. And then the filter medium is much better, like I've shown you guys on the filtration.
So when I get an oil change, are they replacing the filter all the time?
Yes. So
or they should be, or
yes.
do they sometimes not?
That 99% they're going to change it.
Okay.
There's some garages that may not, but yeah, every time you change your motor oil, you also change the oil filter. Yep.
So would my mechanic have this, or can I bring it in and be like, can you use this stuff?
Yeah. So you can actually buy this stuff. They ship it right to your house, free shipping, and then your mechanic can put it in for you. The only thing is, if you do that, make sure you physically watch your mechanic put it in, because sometimes they'll just keep it for their car.
Oh, rude.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So where does that go?
All right, so the motor oil would go basically right here in the engine, which so it's going in the fill hole, and then you check your oil with the dipstick, and then the oil filter goes right here in the front on this engine. There's a little oil filter cap down there. It's black.
So that's the hard part that people have to get under for? Yeah,
you need a socket, an extension to get in there. Some cars you actually have to put the filter on from underneath.
Yeah, does this one look like you would have to do that underneath?
This one you do it from the top, and it's that black cap there.
So you just have to like wedge in there?
Yeah, you have to wedge in there with a socket.
Okay.
Turn it. Yep, I have that socket. Yep.
Are they hard to change? Can I do it myself?
You can do it yourself, and the cool thing is you can actually go right down the street to your local Harbor Freight, and you can get standard hand tools, socket wrenches, and basically anybody can change these fluids themselves. You know, just with the proper safety and stuff like that.
Okay.
Cap, the most important fluid on your car would be your motor oil, and this is what circulates inside your engine, and it cools the engine, and it also lubricates it. So it does two different things, and the better the quality of this, the longer your engine will last, and it'll protect you in cold conditions, which this oil will actually pour at negative 60 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. Yep. And conventional oil actually freezes at about negative 40. So this will protect you much better in the cold. And then in the high temperatures, the high heat, this keeps its film strength because it's 100% synthetic. And this actually protects your car better in the heat. So it does both. So that's the most important thing, is your motor oil. Also, when you change your oil, you want to use a good filter. Now the the second most important thing is the radiator coolant, which I'd like to show you guys the radiator coolant. So this is the radiator coolant, and what this is this is a biodegradable. It's a low toxicity, so it won't kill animals, which a lot of OEM coolants actually are not biodegradable, and they have to be specially recycled. So this is a coolant that goes inside the engine, and it goes through the radiator, and the radiator is what cools your car. So it circulates the fluid, this radiator coolant, and that's what cools your engine. It cools your oil. And this usually is changed every about 3 to 5 years. This coolant is good for 5 years, 150,000 miles, and basically it's a proprietary formula that doesn't allow pitting in the aluminum block. So a lot of new engine blocks are made out of aluminum, and they can get corrosion very easy, and this allows to not get the corrosion. And you mix this 50-50 with distilled water.
Oh.
So this is
That's
the bag.
important, I bet, yeah.
Yep. And this is the specs on it, if you want to take a look at the specs. And you mix it 50-50. So that's the coolant.
Where does that go?
The coolant goes in the fill, wherever the fill spot is. So the radiator's up front. Your coolant bottle is right here. So you want to make sure the car is cold before you fill it, as there's high pressure. And you actually take the coolant bottle off, and you fill your coolant where it says coolant.
And is it that whole thing?
This whole bottle, yep.
Okay, so when it goes low, that's how you know when you have to put it.
Yep, and you'll see the level on the side.
Oh, okay.
You can see the coolant level. And on this, you want to change it about every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And you usually just drain it out the bottom, and then you just fill it up from the top.
Oh, so you don't have to wait until it's all gone, you have to drain it.
Yep, you actually, you have to drain it, yep. So this, it's not something you just keep refilling. It's, you actually drain it out, and over time it actually gets thicker. So an older coolant will actually be harder to circulate, which gets you less gas mileage. So when you actually change the coolant, you can actually see an improvement in fuel mileage, and also by your car running cooler, you can get better gas mileage and have more power. And speaking of power, this is AMSOIL Dominator Coolant Boost, and what this is this is a proprietary additive that helps your car warm up twice as fast. So if you live somewhere cold, it'll save you a lot of gas mileage on starting it. When you're on idle up, your car runs rich, and it's using about double the gas when it's warming up. And there's less blow-by when you use the AMSOIL and you warm up faster. You're actually keeping your oil in better condition by warming the car faster. And then this keeps you up to 25 degrees cooler. So that's another nice benefit. And this gets added right in the coolant water right here. And you can add this, it's compatible with any type of radiator coolant. Okay. So you can use it with any of them.
So you just put it in whenever you want?
Yep, you put it in whenever you want. And then you follow the directions. It shows you what percent to add to the system size. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
So if it's really thick, that's how you know when you want to change your coolant?
It's not really, you're not really going to see that it's thicker. More, more it's just like every 3 to 5 years. Okay. And also depending on the conditions you drove it. So if you drove it like a lot of high heat, you'd want to probably change it a little bit earlier. Okay. And it varies amongst vehicles a little bit. Most cars, trucks, SUVs are all within 20%. So most of them, you're going to be changing them 3 to 5 years.
Cool.
So that's the second most important, is the radiator coolant. Now we'll move on to the third, and that's the transmission.
Whenever mechanics talk about transmission, it sounds like root canal to me. It's like, oh no, something's wrong.
Yeah, so this is actually something you'll get a kick out of on this.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So this is like getting a teeth cleaning.
Oh good.
That's how good this is.
Before you get the root canal.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like so much better.
Yeah.
So what this is AMSOIL's Signature Series automatic transmission fluid. And it's 100% synthetic, and it actually allows you to double your severe service interval of any transmission fluid recommendation by the original equipment. So I'll show you that. You can double the severe service interval, and so say they say in high temperature driving you have to change the transmission fluid every 30,000. With this you can go 60,000 miles.
Oh.
So not only does it protect your transmission better by being much thinner when it's cold, it circulates through your transmission with a higher efficiency, gets you better gas mileage. It also helps your car shift faster, so it'll shift faster. And then also it keeps your bearings protected because the thinner oil stays in between the bearings. It flows through the valve bodies better, and it doesn't burn off like other fluids as well. So a higher quality synthetic oil, it won't thicken as much either. So over time, the transmission fluid actually gets thicker and it gets harder to circulate, and then you lose efficiency, and then your shifting slows down. So that's the transmission fluid, and that goes in the transmission. On this car, I don't think there's a transmission dipstick. Some cars have a transmission dipstick where you can add it and you can pour it in. This one, I believe you actually fill it from underneath the car, and a lot of new cars are like that. You actually fill the transmission from underneath the car.
Oh, wow.
And you want to usually change this very similar to radiator coolant, about every 3 to 5 years, and about 50 to 100,000 miles, depending on the driving conditions. So if you're doing any type of towing or like heavy duty work in high temperature, you want to change it much sooner. But if you're doing all highway driving with very little heat, you can do it as high as 100,000 miles.
Cool.
Yep. So that's the transmission.
Cool.
Any other questions on transmissions or
anything
like that?
weird?
Yeah,
No.
all right.
No.
All right, good. Perfect. You can always come back to anything.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How come synthetic is so much better than organic or whatever?
All right, yeah, that's a great question. So she's curious, why is synthetic better than like organic or regular like oils? So the synthetic difference is this is actually a built molecule. So under a microscope, if you look at the synthetic, a synthetic microscope is going to be basically all the same size, and it's going to be the same shape. So when those particles actually move past each other, there's much less friction, and they don't cling to each other.
Oh.
So they roll like perfectly spheres that are ball bearings, where mineral oil is refined crude oil that is larger, and every shape of the molecule is irregular.
Oh.
And they're all like diamond shaped, yeah, or triangular. And when they roll past each other, they clot, and they cling to each other. And they actually build up easier, like sludge, and that's how you get sludge and grease in your engine, is from the breaking down of the oil. So when you keep the oil clean with a filter, and then you use a lubricant where all the molecules are the same shape, you're not allowing it to clot. You're not allowing them to cling together. You're not allowing them to wear and get hot, because when they rub against each other, they warm up, and that's how you get like an overheating transmission,
yeah, is
because this breaks down.
Crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
That'd be a fun name. I don't know if organic. You're like, no.
It's totally organic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so good stuff.
Anything else?
Yeah, let's see. So I would say that's second most.